Welcome to Green Shoe Conversations, the podcast dedicated to mental health and self-care awareness. Streaming live from our state-of-the-art podcast studio to Green Chair Studio, nestled within the serene surroundings of our Green Shoe Ranch. We extend a warm invitation for you to join us on our journey of self-discovery and authenticity. Together, let's explore the depths of personal growth and remain steadfast in our commitment to the mission of the Green Shoe Foundation. Welcome to Green Shoe Conversations. So I'm super excited today because I have Teresa Deck joining me. Now, Teresa Deck, you have been with us since 2016, which we'll get into in a minute, was really the beginning of the Green Shoe Foundation. And in your role as clinical director since then. So you are a licensed professional counselor as well as a supervisor. And I'm going to let you kind of share a little bit about you. But the biggest thing I want to make sure we talk about is how you are our guiding light in the Post Induction Therapy model that we use here at Green Shoe. So thanks for joining me.
You're welcome. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So I really just want to start out first with how did Green Shoe get started? And then how did you get started with Green Shoe?
Certainly. Our founder went to a program out of state, and he said it changed his life. And it's similar to the program that we have here in Oklahoma. He said everybody needs to have this information. Mm-hmm. And so out of the generosity of his heart and wanting to give back to the community, he created this foundation and started in 2015. Groups didn't start till 2016. And so it was just out of his generosity and him understanding that everybody needs to have this information about how to be a healthy, functional adult and how to do relationships in a healthy way. Mm-hmm. And so that's how we got started.
So how did you get started with Green Shoe?
I was at a continuing education meeting, and they had a table there before they even started. And so I had never heard of Pia Mellody. So I immediately went out and bought the book. I was intrigued by what the program was about. And so I went out and bought her book, read it, and I said, wow, everybody needs this information. It's so impactful, and it helps us understand why we are the way we are, why we do the things that we do, why we choose people to be in a relationship with or not choose. And so that was how I heard about Green Shoe.
Sure. And you had been a therapist for years.
I had.
Yeah, and lots of different organizations and your background. So kind of talk a little bit about this model, the overview of the model, what makes it different and what are its components.
Certainly. The overview, Pia calls it the overview of developmental immaturity. And she also defines codependency as a disorder of immaturity caused by relational trauma. My definition is that we didn't learn how to grow up and be a mature adult. And so we still act like and feel like children and immature sometimes. And so we choose unhealthy ways to get our needs met or to do relationships. And so this model was created when Pia Mellody did her own work, did her own healing work. And so she saw and identified there's 5 areas where we get out of balance and we get into the extremes in these areas when we didn't learn how to grow up and be a mature adult, when we didn't have healthy parents themselves. And so we didn't, wasn't modeled to us in our home. And so those 5 areas are self-esteem. We didn't learn how to value ourselves. We didn't learn that we had inherent worth and value. The second one is we didn't learn how to protect and contain ourselves appropriately. We didn't learn what boundaries were. And so as an adult then, if we didn't learn that we could say no, then we don't know how to do that as an adult. And so that we can't protect ourselves in many ways. And so that's the second core issue. The third one is being able to express who we are. And she calls it our reality. So if we were shut down for what we thought or for what we felt, if we were told that that's wrong, then we internalized that belief. And so we didn't feel safe in sharing our thoughts and our feelings with other people. So that's the third core issue. The fourth core issue is our dependency. All children, all babies are born totally dependent on adults taking care of them. And they need to learn how to take care of themselves and meet their own needs and wants. But when they weren't met in a healthy way, we didn't learn how to do that. So now we learn to be anti-dependent, which means I don't need anybody to do anything for me. I got this all on my own.
No fingers pointed.
I wasn't
I know.
pointing any.
No, you weren't.
Because some would be coming back at me if I pointed one at you.
Yeah.
So, right. And so the other is, or we learn to be too dependent and not know how to take care of ourselves. So learning how to get our needs and wants met in healthy ways. The fifth core issue is living in balance and moderation. We either sometimes saw our parents be out of control and too intense, or shut down and disconnected. And so we didn't learn that balance of life, of what spontaneity and what healthy intimacy look like, sharing ourselves with other people in safe and healthy ways. So those are basically the 5 core issues that were created when we experienced childhood relational trauma.
Sure, but I can absolutely see how all 5 of those are, work in relationships with others, our intimate relationships, and even our relationships with ourselves. And one thing I like that you talk about is how they don't stand alone. They all kind of intertwine and work together.
They do impact one another because our self-esteem will, for instance, our self-esteem will impact the way we express our reality. It will impact how we get our needs and wants met. If we don't love ourselves, we don't take the time to take care of ourselves.
Right.
So they impact one another. And so one, again, doesn't stand alone. They all have varying ways that they create ways that we adapt in unhealthy ways or adapted. If our needs and wants weren't met, then we told ourselves, we're not valuable. Mom's not giving me a hug. She doesn't love me. Yeah. So that's what our child brain told us back then. So,
And we carry that on into adulthood.
Absolutely, we do. Yes.
So you mentioned codependency, and I know that's kind of a word that likes to kind of be thrown out there. But one thing that I found interesting, that the way that Pia looks at codependency, at least for me, was different. The definition, I always had this narrow perspective of it, and it's not. And you kind of touched on that with being the anti-dependent and then also too dependent. So talk a little bit more about what codependency is, and then how do we heal from all of that?
Okay. Codependency it was a term coined many years ago, and they used to use the term only in relationship to individuals who are in a relationship with someone that has an addiction issue. And so they are codependent on their behaviors. And Pia widened that definition to identify ways that we relate and learn to relate to individuals in unhealthy ways because of what we experienced in childhood. So it's the extremes of those core issues define our codependency. So when we feel better than others or less than others, that again defines, it's a symptom of our codependency. And so basically, the symptoms of our codependency are living in the extremes in all of those 5 core issues: our self-esteem, our boundaries, our reality, our dependency, and the extreme then of being too shut down or too wide open. So if you look at an individual, say they're more concerned about other people than they are themselves. Yes, that can be a symptom of codependency. Also, it can be people that feel too highly of themselves and put other people down. That is a sign, a symptom of codependency as well. So it's unhealthy relationship with ourselves and with other people.
So one of the questions I was going to ask, so then who fits into this model? And you kind of have alluded to, all of us.
Basically, yes, because I say anybody that had a childhood.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so
I love that. Yep.
And so because we learned as a child, we learned, was the world safe? And how are people going to treat me? And so we put like lenses on, life lenses, like we have glasses on. Well, as a child, you put life lenses on, and looking at the world, you looked at the world through what you experienced. So you thought that was normal, that people would scream at one another and hit you and abuse you. That was your normal. And so your life lens was, ooh, I have to be highly hyper aware, hyper vigilant of what's going to happen in the world because it's not a safe place. Or people who love me, are going to call me names, are going to treat me mean. And so, again, those life lenses we put on in childhood and we normalize that. And so you asked me the question, how to heal
Yeah.
from that is the first way is to identify what you experienced in childhood, identifying those lenses that you have on
Mm-hmm.
and see where, how those things impacted you. And so recognizing that I have to first embrace your history, to look at your history. What was your childhood? And we so, and it's again, it's a coping, it's an adaptation. We so minimize
Mm-hmm.
what we experienced in childhood.
Right. Right. Well, it wasn't that bad.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't that bad. I survived, you
Yeah.
know. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or they did the best they could.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. That's one of the things we hear every week. I can't blame my parents. And for we do not want to blame
Right.
our parents, but to identify things that were happening with them that prevented them from being there for you as a child, and you didn't get what you needed.
Mm.
All right. So identifying is the first way. Seeing what lenses you have on. The second way is processing your trauma, your childhood experiences in a safe, supportive environment.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third thing is releasing those negative messages that you've told yourself that I'm not enough, I don't matter, my opinion doesn't matter, I'm never going to have healthy relationships. Whatever lies that you've told yourself or beliefs that you told yourselves that were told to you by your parents, either verbally or non verbally. So many messages we got
Right.
just by when our parents weren't there. What does that inform me about myself and about what I can expect from other people today in my relationships? So those three things I think are so helpful in the healing process, because trauma or anything less than nurturing
Right.
is what.
And that's the key. I want to make a point of that because that's how Pia defines trauma or childhood relational trauma.
Mhm.
Like you said, anything that we experienced that was less than nurturing. And you said something a second ago too. Sometimes it's those things we didn't get
Mhm.
and acknowledging those as well. So that's where it fits in such a wide range of people's childhood experiences.
Right. And so those things that we didn't get, if we weren't told that we were valuable, if
Mm-hmm.
we weren't protected from our other siblings or from other people, what did we make up about ourselves? So
Mm-hmm.
that was, again, less than nurturing. And what that does to us, it disconnects us from ourselves. So trauma separates us from our true authentic self and what we think and what we feel. I'll give you one little example.
Yeah.
When you have a parent who said to you, quit crying, or I'm really going to give you something to cry about.
Mm-hmm.
The messages that a child makes up about that is, first of all, it's not okay to be sad. It's not okay to express my thinking. There's something wrong with me. And I'm afraid because something worse might happen.
Right.
So it disconnects us from who we are, our authenticity, and what we feel and what we think. And then healing that trauma reconnects you back to yourself. So many individuals are so disconnected from their emotions that it's hard. If you're not connected to yourself and you're not aware and can't be present, you can't be in healthy relationships with other individuals if you don't know who you are and what your feelings are and what
Mm-hmm.
you're experiencing. If I have to look to somebody else to know what I'm feeling, that's codependency.
Yeah.
That's codependency. So healing involves identifying those three things, processing them, and then being able to get back to that connected part of yourself and being able to be the real true self and not have to have somebody else tell me who I am or what I think or what I feel or what's safe or what's not safe. To feel safe in the present moment.
Right. And sometimes just knowing you have the right to do that, to do
Mm-hmm.
that deep
Mm-hmm.
healing. Because you talked about this is more about finding out the why and going deep down and healing from that versus just putting a band-aid
Mm-hmm.
on a relationship symptom or something like that and just trying to kind of push it down and move on.
Right. And it's so important that you look at what happened to you and how does that, not only what happened, but how does it impact me today when I do things or don't do things. Many times it's not about what's going on right now. Most times it's about what happened in childhood and not healing those wounds and not addressing what happened in childhood. Just again, pull those bootstraps up and go on.
Sure. So, what are some things as an adult can I look for that either patterns or things that I'm doing or experiencing that might kind of clue me into, oh, maybe this is something I need to explore?
Oh, sure. Um, some of those might be people pleasing behaviors.
Mm-hmm.
We have to have people like us, or we're not good enough. So, people pleasing, any kind of addictions, whether it's our phones or computers,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's work, whether it's pornography, sex, drugs, alcohol, any kind of addictions are a sign that I'm not getting my needs and wants met in healthy ways.
Mm-hmm.
People pleasing, disconnection, isolation, perfectionism, wanting to be the best. And if I'm not, that negative self talk and
Mm-hmm.
critical self talk that we have many times, not being able to express your emotions in healthy ways. We either get out of control and we're yelling and screaming, or we shut down and are afraid to share. So, the way we communicate or don't communicate
Yeah.
in relationships, I think I said the control is a huge thing, wanting to control everything in order to feel safe inside. Because I didn't learn as a child that because things were so out of control, and so that safety, okay, if I can control this, then I'm not going to feel so unsafe and
Unsafe.
afraid.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think of some other things that we identify as codependent
Mm-hmm.
behaviors or dysfunctional.
Well, and I've heard you talk about just someone who has a lack of joy in their life.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And repeating same things in relationships, that I'm going to leave you before you leave me. If
Mm-hmm.
we felt some abandonment issues, or fear of I have to tell you what to do,
Mm-hmm.
and not let you make your, as an adult, and not let you make your own decisions in your life and your relationships.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love hearing you talk about this model. I mean, that's something I
Mm-hmm.
get the joy of all the time, but I really appreciate you kind of sharing. And we just kind of talked about the tip of the iceberg, with this.
Absolutely.
Um, I know both of us would encourage anybody who wants more information about this model. Definitely, Pia's book, Facing Codependence, is a good
Yes.
place to start. Where can somebody get information about Green Shoe? What's the best place?
Our either on Facebook or on our website,
Mm-hmm.
and so those are two places that you can find
Absolutely.
out about us. You can call. I had a gentleman this morning call from Colorado, interested about his adult daughter. I know she'll need to call, but and so just giving them information, we can do that verbally, or you can, for sure. There's a lot of information on our website that is helpful
There
to.
is, yeah, a lot of the nitty gritty stuff, and again, some of that information may be included in future podcasts as we kind of keep exploring all of these topics. But before we go, I want to kind of
Okay.
get to know you just a little bit more, so everybody
Okay.
can hear
Okay.
that. A couple quick questions, and these are not on your sheet, so that way
Okay.
she doesn't know. These
Okay.
are favorite questions.
Okay.
So,
Favorite.
yeah, what's your
Mhm.
favorite season?
Oh, that's a hard one because I love winter. And so I would almost say winter, but yet I love spring and getting out in the yard and seeing the flowers too. And of course, we're in spring right now and looking at those beautiful tulips out there. So spring probably, or I love winter too.
Okay.
In this, because I love snow
Yeah.
and I love Christmas. So
Well, I'm
yeah.
curious about this one. Then the next one is, what's your favorite or would be your favorite vacation destination?
Mm. Well, I would say so far in my past, my favorite um, vacation was when I went to Italy with my daughter. And so I would love to go back to Europe and explore more of Europe. I didn't get
Mm-hmm.
to see enough of that. And so, and our ancestry, I think that's part of our DNA.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of, again, ancestry from Europe. We all do. And not we all do, but a lot of us do in
Sure.
the United States. And so Europe has been another. I would love to go back to Europe and
Yeah.
different places.
Okay. I'm going to see if this one's changed. Favorite dessert?
Oh, probably not. Dulce de leche cheesecake. So that's yeah.
All
Mm.
right. And then last one, favorite superhero?
Oh goodness. Superhero. That I've not thought about. When I was growing up, the initial superhero was Superman,
Yeah.
and so that was um,
Yeah. That's the first one I remember too as a kiddo.
yeah, it is Superman, and so and then I guess Wonder Woman would be the
Mm-hmm.
closest thing to Superman and being a female. And so I would probably say one of those would be a great superhero. I'm trying to think of some others, but those either
Yeah.
Superman or Wonder
Wonder
Woman
Woman.
would,
Okay.
yeah, because my little granddaughters too, I several years ago bought them the super woman and so they dress up of those as a lot.
Oh, I
So
love that.
yeah,
Yeah.
those are yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so
You're
much for
welcome.
doing this.
Welcome.
Again, if you want to get a hold of us, greenshoe.org is our website, and it's got all of our contact information and more information too about Teresa and our wonderful clinical team. So thanks for joining us.